Well, welcome viewers. I'm Dr. JWAU, theologist here on the Central Coast, New South Wales, Australia. We're doing a series on why the people of the book rejected Muhammad. We're up to episode 6 in this series, and this is entitled The Crucifixion of the Lord Jesus Christ's Denial. Can Islam rewrite history? Well, apparently over 1 billion people believe that it can, but let's have a look a little bit deeper into this. Christianity stands or falls on one historical event, and that is the crucifixion of the Lord Jesus Christ. Now, Islam's position creates one of the most explosive conflicts in religious history, because it denies or radically reinterprets the very event that sits at the center of the Christian faith and the Western world. If the crucifixion of the Lord Jesus Christ happened, and we know it happened, even the date is set on it, 2026. Since when? 2026, since the crucifixion of the Lord Jesus Christ. Islam faces a major problem. And it does face a major problem because the crucifixion did happen, and it just does not accept it in the sense of what it meant. Now, if the crucifixion did not happen, then Christianity collapses. It's as simple as that. It's a complete collapse. Both cannot be true. One's true or the other's true. And that's what the crux of this talk is about, viewers. Islam's denial of the crucifixion directly contradicts biblical testimony, early church witness, and multiple historical sources, creating one of the most serious challenges to Muhammad's claim of confirming prior revelation. Teaching point number 1. The crucifixion is central to Christianity. And this is not secondary doctrine. The crucifixion sits at the center of Christian theology because it directly connects to sin, atonement, forgiveness, resurrection, and salvation. Remove the cross of the Lord Jesus Christ, and the whole gospel collapses. Why it matters. The Lord Jesus Christ repeatedly predicted his death, and what it meant, and why it was. The apostles preached the Lord Jesus Christ crucified, what it meant, and what it was for. Atonement flows through the cross of the finished work of the Lord Jesus Christ. Resurrection follows the finished work of the Lord Jesus Christ on the cross. And forgiveness is tied to the sacrifice of the Lord Jesus Christ on the cross, forgiveness with God. Christianity is built around the crucifixion of the Lord Jesus Christ. So without the cross, biblical Christianity ceases to exist. Teaching point number 2. Historical evidence strongly supports the crucifixion. This issue extends beyond theology. The crucifixion is one of the most widely accepted historical facts among scholars of ancient history. Even non-Christian sources reference the Lord Jesus Christ's crucifixion and execution on the cross. Here's some historical support, authoritative, authentic historical support for the crucifixion of the Lord Jesus Christ. I think one of the main ones is 2026, the year 2026, since the crucifixion of the Lord Jesus Christ. Here's another one. Gospel eyewitnesses' accounts of the crucifixion of Christ. Apostolic testimony of the crucifixion of the Lord Jesus Christ. Early church writings related to the crucifixion of the Lord Jesus Christ. Roman authoritative historical references recording the crucifixion of the Lord Jesus Christ. Jewish historical references to the crucifixion of the Lord Jesus Christ and broad scholarly agreement on the authoritative records and authenticity of those records relative to the crucifixion of the Lord Jesus Christ. So the burden of proof shifts heavily toward anyone denying the event. It has to be proven that it didn't happen, and I don't think that's possible. So teaching point number 3. Islam introduces a later contradiction. Islam introduces a later contradiction. Islam emerges roughly 600 years after the Lord Jesus Christ and presents a radical different version of events in its writings. This creates historical tension, tremendous historical tension. A later religious claim is overturning earlier authentic and authoritative accounts and witnesses. And the critical question is, why reject earlier eyewitness testimony? Why overturn apostolic accounts? Why deny established history? Why introduce a contradictory narrative centuries later? Why should later claims override earlier authentic and authoritative evidence? Chronology, the working out of these matters. So later contradiction demands extraordinary evidence. What is Muhammad basing, and the Quran and the Islamic writings basing their ideas on? So here's a practical example for us to think about. Imagine investigators gather eyewitness testimony immediately after a major event. Then 600 years later, someone appears and says, that event never happened. Now, most rational people would demand overwhelming evidence. Prove that never happened. Prove it. Okay? Prove it. It's like somebody going in and having a major operation and then somebody saying that operation never happened. Well, prove it never happened. All the evidence is there that it did. So let's reflect. Why do many people demand evidence for Christianity while accepting later contradictions without any scrutiny? Think of it for a minute. Why do many people demand evidence for Christianity while accepting later contradictions without equal scrutiny? So let me challenge you, viewers. Study Roman, Jewish, and Christian historical references to the crucifixion event. Examine how strong the evidence actually is and conclude, based on that evidence, whether the crucifixion of the Lord Jesus Christ actually happened 2026 years ago. Here's a principle in a proverb as we draw to a close of this episode. A later contradiction does not erase earlier evidence. A later contradiction does not erase earlier evidence. And let's close, viewers. The crucifixion of the Lord Jesus Christ is not merely a theological disagreement. It is a historical collision. If Muhammad's message denies one of the most historical and documented religious events in the history of humankind, then Muhammad's claim to confirm prior revelation becomes extraordinarily difficult to defend. The cross remains the dividing line between Christianity and Islam. And if you don't make the effort to work out what the reality of it all is, you live in deception. And Jesus Christ and his crucifixion is the dividing line between Christianity and Islam. I'm Dr. JWAU. We'll go to episode 7 next. Like, share, subscribe if you enjoy this simple, basic teaching. I'm also pro Bricky and pro theologist on Facebook, and I have the YouTube channel Count Straight. Like, share, subscribe, most of all comment, and I'll see you in episode 7. Thanks for coming in.